Hey, everybody, welcome once again to the Dancing Sober podcast. And thank you once again for joining us here. I want to give a big thank you to Espacio 1839. I want to thank them for allowing us to do our podcast inside of their shop. Don't forget to visit them at 1839 East First Street or go to their website at espacio1839.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Espacio1839. So check them out on Instagram and on the interweb. We don't have any sponsors still, so I want to give a big shout out and to our homies next door at Street Tacos and Grill. They're the homies, and they do have some of the best tacos around, and they're not your typical street tacos. So come check them out at Street Tacos and Grill. You could also find them on the internet. Without further ado, we have a very special guest this week. Give it up for Yolanda Gonzalez. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dancing Sober podcast. And this week we have a local legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Yolanda Gonzalez.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I've watched your videos. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Of your photography.
Thank you.
And your videos. And so I'm happy to be here.
You are one of the first artists that you probably don't know this, of course, but it was like the 90s when I started to hang around with like art and artists and stuff. And I remember going to a gathering. These past 3 weeks, we've been getting that paletero every time.
Okay, is it paletas
or
is
elotes?
Okay, if it's elotes,
Yeah.
está bien. Échame uno.
I think it's the elotero.
Yeah. So on the cob or in the bowl?
Esquite.
Esquite.
Esquite is bomb. Yeah, esquite is really bomb. I love it.
And toppings?
I go light on the mayonnaise, very light, just a dash of mayonnaise because mayonnaise tastes so good. But I go light on the mayonnaise and light on the chili. It's not spicy. I just like a little tinge of it.
Yeah.
Because the corn itself tastes so good. You don't really need anything in it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, why is it about their corn? It's always so yes.
It's cooked like a cloud. But
Definitely.
I was saying, so in the 90s, when you were over here on Cesar Chavez in that space, I went to a party there. So, I mean, it was like one of my first eye-opening experiences where I saw this world of artists and art and like dimly lit parties. and there was a lot of artists there that were known, and anyways, that was it's just a big memory in my head that day. And somebody introduced me to you and I said hello, but of course, I'm sure you don't remember that day.
Of course I do.
No, there's no way.
Yes, it was a lucha libre party.
Was it? I don't even remember that because I was drinking, of course. Back
Oh yeah, there was those parties were definitely great. Those were some great parties. It was on Cesar Chavez, and it was right across kind of catty corner from the White Memorial.
Yeah.
And we were in that space for I think I was there maybe 8 years, and we had themed parties. Lucha Libre, and so on and so forth. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Anyways, that was really cool. I like to start here with just getting to know the artists and the artists in their youth and where you were born and stuff like that. So why don't you share with us some of that?
Okay.
History.
So essentially my childhood name is Yaya.
Okay.
Because I couldn't pronounce my name, so I called myself Yaya. So that to this day, my family still calls me Yaya. And I was a very peculiar child, and very much in my head, very much in a fantasy world. And when I was growing up, I was very introverted. Completely the opposite of the way I am now. Completely opposite. Very shy. And I was in grammar school. I got picked on quite a bit. Yeah, I got picked on quite a bit. So that was hard. I kind of wanted to be, inconspicuous. I don't want to.
Where did you go to grammar school?
I went to Marian School, Miraculous Middle.
I don't know where that is.
Montebello.
Oh, okay.
Montebello. And
Never heard of that one.
yeah, yeah. And so then I went to Ramona Convent, but we'll stay with being young. So I was a very strange child. So one of the very interesting stories as a little girl is I was about 4 years old, and I felt unappreciated in my family, maybe 3 even. So I ran away. I ran away
Wow.
I ran away.
You're living in Montebello.
At that point, we were living, I think, in Monterey Park.
Okay.
And so I ran away to my mother's closet,
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
and I heard everybody calling my name. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I felt so great, so appreciated. This is horrible. This horrible little girl. And then so I hear the cops coming, right? The cops are there, and my parents. And I'm the youngest of 6, so they were all, But I'm thinking, para que aprenden, right? And so my sister, the closest one to me, says, yeah, I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I opened the closet and I put my... Because I'm thinking, I'm going to get the sandwich and I'm going back to my spot and I'm going to have my sandwich.
Like E.T. hiding in the closet, yeah.
So I said, I found her. So my poor parents, they were in for quite a treat with me.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And at school, were you the same way, or?
I mean, in school I was very quiet. Yeah, I was very quiet. I had, I wore contacts. I wore really kind of thick glasses. I was kind of an ugly kid. I really was an ugly kid. I get prettier as I get older, so I'm like, yeah, bring on the 70s. Because I want
to... I would hate to say like ugly kid. I mean, just because it's an ugly word, but I just...
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes we don't like see ourselves in a certain way, until we get older. Because I would look at pictures. Back in the days, I thought I was horribly looking. I mean, now I think I'm horrible looking too. But
no, you're not.
When I see pictures of myself like 20 years ago, I'm like, God damn, I was okay. I was pretty handsome. I should have not felt the way that I did. And I think sometimes we just don't know how to gauge ourselves. It's just my opinion. Yeah.
That's true. So, maybe unattractive, or maybe but
we have our own insecurities for whatever reason.
And no, I think everybody does.
Yeah,
everybody does, and I think it's when you get to be my age now, you just say
hey, the hair's good. Let's go with it.
Whatevs. I don't even have time to be insecure.
Yeah.
But I remember another story. So my mom put me in etiquette class. And I remember...
how did this even come up?
The etiquette class?
Why do you get put into etiquette?
Probably because she thought I really needed it.
Like, esta niña...
Esta niña, a ver si le ayudan un poquito con algo, right? And so I remember they had a hall. They had a hall where, they had all the performances and stuff. So we were in the hall because we were waiting for this woman who's going to come teach us etiquette. So I'm looking out the window and I'm just looking and this woman gets out of this car and just beautifully dressed, just beautiful. And she has this little suitcase. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, I want what's in that suitcase because that's going to set me free. Like that suitcase is going to hook me up, And she taught us how to walk with a book on our head, which I can do. I could walk with and so it was the mannequin pose, which I do now, I think, in pictures.
That's good.
I passed the class.
I love it.
Yeah, I passed.
Yeah.
I think I took notes and I hung on to all that information.
Okay.
But it's sweet. It's sweet, the memories.
How old were you?
I think I was about 24. No, I'm just playing. I think it was I must have been 8.
Wow.
8 or 9. I was just
absorbing all that, just like.
Absolutely. And I'm the youngest of 6. And my parents, they came from Mexico and they worked very hard, as did all our parents, And, my dad had some businesses here in Boyle Heights. And
having that many brothers and sisters too, like, hardly any attention, I'm sure, was going to you, even though you were the baby.
Yeah, there's like two baby pictures. I think one when I'm 2, and then the next one I'm like 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They're like, what happened? We got to get some more of.
Yeah, my eldest
Yeah,
sister,
yeah.
it's like, her first smile, her first blink, her first,
Yeah.
and it just goes on, and her marriage, everything goes on and on. Me, it's like, dad's carrying her at the Christmas tree, it's
Yeah.
like, but, but it was good. And
Yeah.
it was
I mean,
good.
big families are fun. Yeah. We were a total of 5 brothers and sisters, so we had fun,
Yeah. And where are you?
I grew up over here in East LA, but
And between the brothers?
I have 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters and 2 younger brothers.
You're the middle.
Yeah, in the middle.
That's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah. But I was the oldest brother, so that counted for a lot.
Oh, yes. That's true. Yeah.
So let's get back to you. So what else stories do you have for us? Maybe something in middle school or when did art... Oh, okay, wait a minute. I understand that you come from a long line of artists, like your family had generations of artists, right? So this had to start young when you were little. And do you remember like your first interests in art?
I think, well, I always talk about my first interest being I was about 4. This was after I ran away.
If I'm staying, I better get a job, some kind of hobby.
And my sister Alice, the same woman, the same young lady the same girl who brought the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, she got a set of watercolor paints. But actually, the other night I was laying in bed thinking, were those oils? Because there were tubes.
Well, they do make watercolor tubes.
They do, but I'm wondering in the 70s or late 60s if they had pans or tubes. They probably had tubes, and then they went into the pans. I'm gonna research that.
Yeah.
So she had a box of I was assuming watercolors, and I can remember the box. I can remember the silver tubes. I can remember the paper around the tubes. I mean everything. And of course she had to open it to show me, right? Probably thinking I spent all that time looking for you, and now you're gonna pay. I'm not gonna give you my watercolors, and so I remember being so attracted to those watercolors, and I wanted them. And, needless to say, she didn't give them to me. But that was the first time I think I got introduced to something creative. And then my grandmother, who was an artist and a pianist, sat me down when I was about 8. I remember we went to Save-On's in Atlantic Square, which is now CVS. And they had oil paint sets. And so she got me an oil paint set. We went home, and she got me this oval piece of wood, and we painted these 2 senoras walking up this kind of road with the baskets on their hat. The painting will show up sometime. I've been looking for that painting. It's in my mom's house somewhere. And I was just very excited that out of the 6 kids, she chose me to sit and paint with her. And from then on, we had an affinity, her and I. We just loved each other immensely. So she would travel to Europe. Essentially, she was divorced, and she educated herself, and she became a nurse, but she bought herself this wonderful grand piano, which I inherited. And she was wonderful. And I know that tenía pretendientes, right? She had suitors, but etiquette class, right? The suitors. Or bow, suitor or bow. And, but she wasn't interested in that. She wanted to continue to create her music and her art. And so that was my second kind of introduction to art. And then I really didn't have the outlet to explore and create, and kind of, I just stopped after 8. And then I was going to Ramona Convent High School, and then I ended up going to San Gabriel Mission High, which I loved because the vice principal wore high tops and played drums. And at that point, I was in a girls' rock band, a girl punk band, new wave. Maybe it was punk.
What did you play?
A guitar.
Okay.
The axe. Como preguntas, of course. And I still have my Fender Telecaster.
Wow.
And my I just bought a Gretsch, a red Gretsch, and have my amp, and I'm a distortion girl.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So it was San Gabriel Mission High School was wonderful because they worked with me. They just gave me the attention I needed. And there was a teacher, Dixie Coutant, and she had another name then, but she was divorced, so we're not going to give her ex-husband any play on that name. So
Okay.
so she gave an assignment to draw a tree, and at that point I kind of had given up. I just gave up on art. And
So you hadn't really done art since you were like 8, 9? Wow. But you had picked up the guitar, which is creative, but
yes, I had
that's interesting.
guitar, but I really didn't. I mean, I would go to art class, but there was no, hey, let's do this or hey, do that. There was really nobody who connected with me to say, to work with me, right, or to kind of explore what
Your
was
own creativity as opposed to like assignments or, you know.
Yeah. And so I was at lunch with my best friend Mirna at Mission, and I said, oh, we have to draw a tree for, art class. So I literally did 2 sticks in a circle, like just, and so the teacher says, everybody put your drawings on the table, and I put mine. I was a punk rock new waver. I didn't care. I was like
who cares?
My spikes
Attitude,
and
I love it.
And so, and I, my school uniform, I would embroider little guitars on my lapels.
Wow. Your little signs of rebelliousness.
It was very small. They were like this big. And my guitar pins. And so she says, who drew this? And I said, oh, I did, And I probably went like, me, not giving the thing. And she says, she looks at me after she talks to me. She says, go home, look at a tree, and draw exactly what you see. That was it. She set me free. She set me free on that one. I came back and she said, did you really draw this? And I said, yeah. And from then on, she even asked the nuns if she could have a special class with me.
Okay, wait. You drew 2 lines in a circle and you got punished. It was kind of like a punishment to send you home and to make you draw it.
Well, she wanted to I think it wasn't a punishment. I think
was it that she liked it?
I think she just wanted me, she gave me more of an explanation as to what she was looking for.
Oh, okay.
And that triggered something in me.
Okay.
And it wasn't, she was a really lovely lady. And it wasn't, she is a lovely lady. It wasn't about, it was like, okay, give this a try.
Yeah, the bottom line is that she said the right words that opened up the love for what you're doing. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, I drew a beautiful tree. And like I said, I had art class, and then I had a side class with her, special studies art class with her. And she entered me into a contest, and I won first place.
Wow. What was the contest?
It was an art contest with high school students, and you won the first prize for the artist was going to Art Center on Saturday High.
Wow.
So, and I went to the awards banquet, I think with my mom, maybe my dad too. And then I saw all the kids from my grammar school, some of the kids from my grammar school who were, all the top, mathematicians and the top science and the top, sports and then here I was, representing the top, art in my school. And that was the first time I had ever won anything.
Wow. Do you remember what you drew or what?
It was actually a sculpture. It was a paper mache sculpture of a guitar.
Oh, wow.
I did.
That's awesome.
I did there was a bottle inside, and there was a paper mache, a little one of a guitar, and then there was a really big one that I created. Yeah, so it was one of the guitars that she entered, and I won. And so then that took me to Art Center, and at that point, I was living at my home. Of course, I was high school with my parents, and my dad and my dad always had difficulties with me. He just didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
He just had.
What is this nonsense that you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes when I got older, I would wear like red eyeliner and black lipstick. And then there was like that Motley Crue hairdo that I had. It was like Motley Crue. My mom kept putting away. She would steal my monkey boots and my spikes, and I'd be like, "Where'd my monkey boots go? I just bought some monkey." Anyway,
That's awesome, though.
so yeah, what was nice about Art Center was my older brother and sister had an apartment in Alhambra, and they talked my parents into letting me stay there with them on Friday night. So then Saturday morning they could take me to Art Center. So that was wonderful because I spent time with my brother who was lovely and my sister who was wonderful. So
And
it
give you a
was
little sense of freedom and adulthood kind of a way. Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
And then walking into the doors of Art Center, I thought, I understand myself now. I'm an artist.
Wow.
That's why I'm so
That
different.
campus is something else. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So going from San Gabriel Mission High School, and I was excited enough about their art, class, and then going to Art Center, and then you just the lush of those metal easels. They had these metal easels, and you go into the art supply, and it was like, oh my God, and there was boxes of watercolors. Yeah.
I remember these.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll
That's
take
awesome.
one of those. So it was really important, and for me, through the years, going back and teaching inner city arts, para los niños, all the places I've taught, even Altamed, for the seniors. For me, it really is exciting to share that process with them. So important. So important. And not only that, but I really believe that the process of creating art puts a good energy into the universe. And even more if it's a classroom, it's a meditation and a prayer up to the universe. And so that's always very exciting to me, and to share the creative process in any manner, even if it's very small, with people to create. It's really important.
Yeah, I love that. I'm wondering now, like that you're at Art Center. Is that where you started to develop your style, or was it later? Because now I'm imagining a young girl, little punk rocker, at Art Center. A little bit of a wow, this place is amazing. You have to be somewhat amazed by it, and then starting to paint. And how did your style develop, or when did your style develop, or is that too soon to talk about?
The interesting thing about the style is that I was working under Peter Lyashkov, who was a wonderful Russian artist, and he was giving us the classic European palette to work with. And he would look at me because I was using the primary colors: the yellows, the reds, and the blues. Yellows, the reds, and the blues. And looking back now, I wish I would have paid a little more attention to because it's education, right? That palette is education. But I was very set on just I don't that's all that would come out. That was it. So when I met, then I started doing hair, and I met Arturo Urista. And Arturo said, "Hey, Yoli," right? The way he talks, "Yoli, you got to come over to Self Help Graphics. Come on, Yoli, got to get out of Art Center. Come over to Self Help Graphics." So I said, yeah. And I went to Self Help Graphics, and that was it. That was it. I loved it. And I think the first class I took was Eloy Torres, was life drawing. And I still have that drawing. It's from 87, I think. It's a
So
painting.
you think your colors that you were using like finally felt at home once you went to self-help graphics?
They absolutely made sense. Absolutely made sense, because they didn't make sense to me before. And then I understood. I thought, well, everybody's using the same colors here. There's lots of color going on here, and the interesting point for me was that when I went to LACMA to see the German Expressionist exhibition, I felt a deep connection. And I thought the Chicano movement is very much like the German Expressionist, and misunderstood, angst, political, hard lines, very colorful. I thought, and I cried when I saw that show because I understood. I understood that we, as a culture, the Chicano artists were, you know, we have an affinity with the Germans, German expressionists. I felt.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Um, so you're at Art Center. You're doing all this. You join the community of self-help graphics, and you start to work with people around here. And what is the next step? I know that after Art Center, you did some world traveling, right?
Yes, and that was Sister Karen
Oh,
Vocalero.
really?
Sister Karen Vocalero. So I think for the first travels I went to was an invitation by Eloy Torres, and it was a Chicano art show in France. Les Dimons. I don't remember the rest of this show. And it was an amazing array of Chicano artists. Eloy Torres, Patsy Valdez, Amalia Mesa Baines, Daniel Martinez. I don't remember who else was in that show, but it was a beautiful, beautiful exhibition. So that was my first travel, was to France. And oh, it was lovely. Then Sister Karen and I got along very well, the director of South Help Graphics and the founder of South Help Graphics. And she just took a liking to me. Of course, because I would perm her hair, I would,
Is that right? That's awesome.
we'd be in the print room and she'd be like, I'm going to be perming her hair with all these chemicals.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so Tomas was working there. Tomas Benitez was working there at the time. And he'd say, Yolanda, Sister Karen wants to talk to you. So I was being summoned. I'd be like, oh man. So she would tell me that I think the first place was Spain. I went and lectured in Spain on the Chicano Visions exhibition that was in Madrid and Barcelona.
So Sister Karen selected you, appointed you to speak on behalf of, wow, that's awesome. To speak on behalf of Self-Help Graphics or on behalf of the artists?
Behalf of Self Help Graphics, the artists, and the Chicano movement.
Wow. And this was?
This was, I want to say, 1986.
Wow.
Yeah, about 1986-ish, around there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was maybe about, it's funny how
What an awesome assignment, though.
oh, it was great. It's funny how I connect years because I go, God, I was wearing that hairdo and I was doing the tulle and I was wearing the rubber gloves from France. That's right, yeah. So that was about 86. And it was wonderful. I mean, they put me up in this beautiful, the same hotel the president stayed in when he was in Madrid. Yeah. And they took very good care of me. And I made some friends in Madrid, and then I lectured. We had the exhibition, and I met Tomás Lorenz, who was then the director of the Thyssen-Bonamissa Museum. And I think the director of the museum, the Thyssen-Bonamissa, he said, why don't you come by Monday to the museum and I'll give you a tour. So he opened the museum for me, and it happened to be my birthday. I think it was my 30th. Was it my 30th? Well, I don't remember. And so he gives me a tour, and he says, I'll be right back. So I sit down, and of course, I'm in front of a Van Gogh, and I love Van Gogh is my favorite. Van Gogh, I love Van Gogh. And Van Gogh, I think is the proper
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. And so I sat there in front of the Van Gogh, and I cried. I cried just looking at this beautiful richness of color and texture, and it was brillante. It was beautiful, and so those are the moments for me in my life that really stuck out. Those beautiful moments when I'm alone in these places that are almost sacred, right? So, and then I went to Madrid, and that was wonderful. I went to the Miro Museum, and then they flew me home. And then the second trip the Sister Karen sent me on, I guess I behaved well, or nobody snitched on what I was doing in Spain. Then she sent. Then there was going to be. Tomas calls me again. It was always good news when Tomas called, and he said, "Yoli, there are these two Scottish young ladies coming to create some silk screens, Janie Nicole and Ashley Cook. And do you think you could house them in your apartment? Of course, yes, definitely." So they came and stayed at my apartment, and they were just lovely. We were all probably around the same, maybe they're a little younger, all the same age, and we had a really good time. And so in turn, they were going to do an exhibition at the Glasgow Print Studio.
Wow.
And so then they housed me when I went over there. So, but I went to document, and Sister Karen sent, of course, Ofelia Esparza to do the altar, which was beautiful. They loved it. And then for the papel picado, it was Margaret Sosa.
Okay.
Yeah, so she went to do the papel picado, and I went to I did do some silkscreen monoprints in Scotland because they really were not accustomed to that technique. So I went in and did that, which originated at Self Help Graphics, the monoprints. And so
that did originate there. I didn't know that.
Yes,
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes, I think I'm pretty sure it did. Yes, I said it is, and so it is. Así es,
Así
Rafael.
and so it shall be.
Así es, and so
You have spoken. All this time over there, getting all these experiences and all that, was this after you went to Japan or before Japan?
before
Before you went to Japan.
I went to Japan. Yes,
Wow.
so it was.
And you were still at Art Center?
I think I had left Art Center. I would go back. Art Center was kind of like, I'd go and then I'd come and I'd go. So this was definitely after Art Center. So it was France first. It was then France, and then it was Spain, and then it was Scotland. I think it was, and then France again. Eloy was doing, and since he was one of my teachers, and he just a great teacher. And I'm a big fan. Eloy's like a big brother to me. I really look up to him.
I've never seen him in person.
You've never met Eloy Torres?
No, I've never met
Oh my
Eloy
God,
Torres,
you have
yeah.
to interview him.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to.
He's the most interesting person, very peculiar. He's like me, very peculiar. I had my peculiarity.
Yeah.
He does not. He's like a little genius. It's really great.
His paintings show that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's wonderful. So he invited me to go to him and his wife at that time invited me to go to it was I think it was the north of France or Leon, and oh my God, that was great. Yeah. I laughed because it was great. It was great. There was a lot. It was good. So I remember once, and I think that was the first show, the Les Dimons show, because Patsy was there. There was a transmusical music festival going on. So they threw us in a van and they said, vámonos. So we went. I think we had gone to the north of France, Rennes. I think it was Rennes, because we had been in Leon in the south. And so then we show up to this concert. They take us in a van, and they take, and I have my big old wig. And I was like, I would put my head hurt so bad because I had so much stuff on my head all the time. It was like, gee. And so we show up, and it's all of these, we go backstage, and they bring us out to the front, and there's all these French, these little Frenchies that are so fabulous. And then who's singing is Kid Frost.
What?
Kid Frost is on the stage.
That's hilarious.
And we're like, oh my God, you know.
That's
And
so cool.
it was great. And not only that, they were chanting,
This is for the
Chicano,
raza. Oh, really?
Chicano,
Oh, wow.
and in their little, you know, phrase,
Yeah.
Chicano. And yeah, it was great. And it's just, you know, of course, you know, we started having a couple of cocktails.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. It was just great. It was just great. I remember meeting this French gentleman, Jerome Lebert, and I you know I just like wanted to make friends, and I went up to him. I said, you know, hey, I'm in France for 2 weeks. You in or you out? And he goes, oh, I'm in. So
Oh
he
my
just like
God.
joined. He like joined. He joined the group, and so he was like, you know, he's a friend. I mean, it was like really sweet. You know, he was nice. You know, it's really nice on the eyes, but yeah, it was really fun. And then Patsy goes, "Ah, Yoli." She goes, and he was like a baron or something. She goes, "Yoli, you come to France to find royalty," you know.
Wow.
And so he hung out with us, you know, with
Yeah.
Margaret and Eloy and myself, and at one point I remember, and you know, I'd had some cocktails. And I remember somebody just like was putting us like on this wall, and they took pictures, and then they like. So I just remember like being like, "It was like picture's gonna come out one of these days." With my little chongo all to the
Let's
side.
look for it on the internet. Wow.
So yeah, it was good.
So you had all of these experiences working and painting and representing like Los Angeles Chicano art scene. All this before you went to Japan.
Yes.
And how did you end up going to Japan? I want to hear that story.
So okay, but before Japan, Ricardo, I'm sure you know Ricardo Valverde.
No.
You don't know Ricardo Valverde?
No, I don't.
Ricardo Valverde is an amazing photographer.
Okay, I want to look that up.
Yes, he's passed away since probably several years, maybe 10.
Now, I'm also a very forgetful person. So sometimes if I have like seen it before or looked it up before, I probably forget sometimes. But I'll definitely look it up.
So yes, so he was a photographer, and he would scratch on his photography and paint on it and add stickers. And God, I'm just getting so excited talking about art. I'm like, so like, I gotta go to my studio. I'll be back.
Yeah, I love that.
So Ricardo Valverde introduced me to this gentleman called Ken Colorado, who's also an artist. And Ken Colorado curated an exhibition in Russia. And so I was one of the artists that was chosen. It was Ricardo Valverde, Ken Colorado, myself, Rudy Calderon, you know Rudy, of course. And I think that was it. So we went to St. Petersburg.
Wow.
So we went to St. Petersburg, and that was my first encounter with snow. And of course, I had my big hairdo and my red, my red. It was gray, you know. In Russia, everything was gray except for the beautiful gold, you know, ceilings, you know, roofs on all the beautiful buildings. And here I am with this red jacket. And I'm thinking, God, couldn't I be, you know? Couldn't I, Jesus? Couldn't somebody have told me bring your gray jacket? You know. So we had a great exhibition. And
You didn't get the memo.
I didn't. And then again, you know, after the exhibition, they throw us in cars and off we go to this beautiful, you know, I think the show was at the Peter Paul Fortress. And then we went to this other place, and there's these like red curtains, and it's, you know, and they were always saying Champagnski for the Amerikanski. They were always saying, you know, and so of course we were drinking Champagnski, you know, we didn't want to be rude. And so, yeah, and my really great friend Mirna Cristerna.
I've heard like so many stories like this. Are there still experiences like that happening now? I mean, anything like that?
In general, like artists
like,
traveling?
Are people going to Germany still and doing these kind of paintings? And
I don't know.
no, right? Yeah, I don't hear about it as much.
I don't know. Just for some reason, I always ended up traveling, you know, for some
awesome.
reason. And so when I got back from Russia, Marietta Bernstorff, who was a curator and photographer, said, "Oh, you know, I guess she was working with the Japanese or she had heard or she wanted to submit. She says, "Do you have wood blocks, you know, that I could submit to this print workshop in Japan?" I said, "Of course." So I got some wood and I created some wood.
That's awesome.
And because I had already been printing at South Help,
Yeah,
I had made,
you'd
right?
been around it. It was like,
Exactly. And I think I had taken a class there
Yeah.
of etching, you know, and then we'd done monoprint. So I had already been doing printmaking. So it made
I think
sense.
anybody that's been around self-help for a long period of time, including myself, has at least once done woodblock, linoleum, monoprint,
Etching,
silk
yes.
screen. I haven't done etching, and cyanotype. So all these really cool things that self-help, gives us.
Yeah.
And so you sent them to Japan.
So she entered them, and literally I had just gotten back from Russia the year before, I think, or so maybe 8 months, and she says, she said, oh, so she took me to meet, I think it was the president or the executive director of the Japan Foundation, and
Wow.
he didn't speak English, so I guess he just thought, he liked my energy or something, and so. She said, they're gonna send you to Japan. And I thought, what? And she goes, yeah, they're gonna send you to Japan for six months, and it's all paid for, and you're gonna create, etchings in Japan. They keep half, you keep the other half, and that's it.
A residency.
Yes.
Wow.
Artist in residency. And it's Kaiichi Tokura.
Wow.
And so so I show up in Japan. On the plane, it was so beautiful because on the plane, I called them like, can I upgrade my ticket? Because I'm thinking, I'm going to be on plane for 13 hours. They said, oh, sure. They put me in first class. And so, I wasn't even off the plane. I had a little glass of champagne, and there's a businessman next to me, all the businessmen, right? And then there's me, with my big bun, and of course, And so I probably had tulle in my hair. And so I show up in Japan. They take us to this really little hotel, and I call my parents. Yes, ya llegué a Japón. Mamá, ya llegué. ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? Está muy interesante. Les hablo después. Okay, mijita. Dios te bendiga. Okay, mom. And my mom. And then I'm sitting there, and I turn, and I see this young girl kind of behind the wall, and she's wearing this jacket. She's kind of like, and I look, and they said, "Oh, this is Magda de Jose," and Magda de Jose is from Brazil, and we'd like you to interpret. And I'm thinking, I don't know Portuguese, I did. I interpreted the best I could.
Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese.
Right.
You're trying to understand each other. Wow.
So, needless to say, Magda and I became dearest of friends.
Nice.
I just took care of her, and dearest of friends, and.
So cool.
Definitely, they paid more attention. So there was 4 homes. There was ceramics. There was weaving. Arnulfo Mendoza was from Oaxaca. He was there. There was sculpture and printmaking. So we all had different homes in that same Itskaichi Tokura, which was, I think, the northeast a part of Japan in the country.
Is this where you picked up ceramics?
No.
You had already done ceramics, or
that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
So
because that's another big part of your work. Yeah.
So interesting. It's interesting. So so I spent 6 months there creating woodblock, and so each home had a beautiful studio downstairs. We had a studio. We had this etching press where you just hit the button, and it was, nice. And it was so the master Ikeda-san came and that was from him. That's Ikeda press.
Wow.
And so he would come and talk to us, and I'd be listening, and I absorbed quite a bit. I learned so much about these wonderful Japanese techniques, and then they would take us to classes, and I was like, I'm in. I still want to learn. If there's anything I could grab, if there's anything I could learn, I'm in. I want it. So So I ended up creating a series called the Monster Series. And I wanted to, and I took a drill. I brought a drill from here, so I plug it in. I'd be on the plate like carving, scratching it up, and I really wanted to place a face on the monsters in our psyche, and I wanted to not only place a face on them, but to look at them and see their beauty, and at that point, then you accept them, you know. And for me, I've always been very interested in the grotesque, you know. And so I created these little monsters and these little, these very interesting wood blocks. And at that same time, when I was creating those, there was a woman, Sala Coffin here, who was a writer and very dear to me, and she was very ill, and she was passing away, and so that for me was very sad. I came home a little early from Japan. I couldn't be there with her over here, so I think I cut it a couple weeks short. I cut it, and came here. So, but Magda and I have touched base, and Magda de Jose has a ceramic studio gallery in New York.
Wow.
Called New York Ceramic Space, New York City.
Nice.
And so we keep in touch. You know, we've always kept in touch. She's like a little sister to me. We'd be having these conversations, and it was great because I thought she was talking about her grandmother, and she's like, yeah, and her ear got cut off, and then they sewed her ear back, but it was on the middle of her head, and I'm like, your grandmother? She's like, no, my dog. But we'd go through these long conversations.
Until you understand each other. That's hilarious. So tell us the story of how ceramics did come into your practice.
So I started working at Inner City Arts, I think in '89. And Inner City Arts is a nonprofit organization in the inner city, on 7th and Kohler. And a friend of mine said, oh, they're looking for an art teacher. So I went to this bungalow. They were in a bungalow then. They didn't even have that big building.
Giant building.
We were in the bungalow on 9th Street School. So I go to this bungalow and I met this gentleman named Bob Bates, who's the executive director or creative artistic director at that point. And he hired me. So I started working with kids. So I would work with Bob Bates and Bob Neidham, and the kids were just wild. I remember one time there was just paint all over the floor. I mean, it was like a sea of paint, and Bob and I were just laughing. We just thought it was the best, you know. I mean, they left, and we just cleaned it up, you know. But Bob Bates, his philosophy was that everything could be addressed in a positive manner. So no matter what the kids did, no matter what they said, we didn't like get upset. We would be like, all right, how could we fix this? And let's do this, and let's have fun doing that. And it was always like we were always laughing. And so Bob Bates really educated me and taught me how to teach in a very positive manner. Yeah, just absolutely wonderful man, brilliant man, a creator, and he creates, instruments and just very interesting man. And when I was at Inner City Arts, just the exposure. I mean, Yo-Yo Ma went to Inner City Arts. Itzhak Perlman went to Inner City Arts. Marcel Marceau went to Inner City. I mean, it just went on and on and on. They would come to perform for the Inner City kids.
Wow.
So it was lovely. I think I was there, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And I remember there was this one little boy. I just loved the kids. I don't have kids, so I just loved the kids. And there was this one little boy, and he just ripped my heart out of my body. I just loved this kid, and he knew it too. And he's really short, and I think he was Korean. And I remember when the class was leaving, I was just like, oh, I'm not gonna see him anymore, you know. And he would dress like really kind of strange, and he was just like this, you know. He'd be painting, and he was like, you know, he was just really adorable. And I remember when he left, he came up to me, and I thought he was gonna tell me something. So I went like this, and he brought his nose, and he rubs my nose with his, and then he left, and I was just like, oh my God. So it's been good, you know.
So that's where you picked up ceramics?
Yes. Yeah. So ceramics. I'm sorry. You're like, get to the ceramics.
That's okay.
Get to the ceramics.
These podcasts are free to, you know, you can talk about whatever.
So when I was at Inner City Arts, there was then they got a large building, and there was visual arts, there was dance, ceramics, performance art. I mean, that was just wonderful. And in the ceramics was Judith Pauly, who's a wonderful ceramicist. You can find her on Instagram, amazing. And then amazing Robert Miller. And Robert Miller had spent some time in Japan, and I think they even like put him in one of the vases upside down so he could work on the. I mean, Robert Miller's amazing at what he does. So Robert Miller, I think I would go visit them because we're all like a family, and I would go in there and he'd say, Robert, hey kiddo, come on and sit down. Why don't you do some ceramics? Come on, kiddo, sit down. So I'm like, okay. So I sat down, I started playing, and so I started creating these ceramic little heads. And then I just continued. I just continued, and then in my studios, the studio I have now, I bought a kiln, and I just started creating. I would take classes in community, like a community little school in West Covina for years. Edward, my ceramic partner now at the studio, and I would take these classes, and we'd go Mondays, and we'd spend 6 hours, And when I was young, I'd make like there was like, Edward's very meticulous, so he had like a little space, and he, but all my stuff was all over the table, and I'd get there early because I wanted to get the good table, I didn't want the señoras getting my table, so I'd get there like extra early to get my table. I'm really strange about spaces and where I'm sitting.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I'm also the messy guy too. Yeah. Like my workspace, you will always know that's my workspace. Yeah.
And you know exactly where everything is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A creative mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Robert Miller is now the professor at Rio Hondo, the ceramic professor, and we have worked on several projects. And he's very supportive. And actually, right now, I have some pieces, an independent study, I guess, and I have some pieces in the kiln, thanks to Robert Miller. And I call him, Robert, and okay, we'll use this and use that, kiddo, and do this. And
he's still part of.
Yes, and so I saw him yesterday.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so I text with Magda, and she's coming to LA in a few weeks, and so that's how I got into ceramics, and it just stayed with me. And even though my two-dimensional work has always been what I've been known for, then people started to go, "Who did that? And what's that?" And so then ceramics, right?
It's we know you for both.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful work.
It's been great. So now I'm combining the two. Yeah, I'm combining the two. I believe art is like a relationship, right? And you give into it, and it gives back, and there's this dialogue and this energy exchange. And so I'm thinking, instead of keeping these two relationships separate, I should combine them together. So you'll be seeing more of that.
I was thinking last night as I was just pondering stuff, what would somebody well, let me try to put this question right. In 100 years, if somebody's looking at your work and you paint a lot of people, a lot of portraits, what do you think those people will represent? Does that make any sense?
Yes, I think they'll think that we're a culture of chongos.
¿Quién son estas chongudas?
Everybody had chongos back then. It was like a chongo in the middle, or the chongos on the side, or the chongos. I love the chongos. I was thinking about that the other day because I was working on something, and I said, yeah, 100 years from now they're going to be looking at this going, what? Because I just finished a very large. I want to say she's about 3 feet. This large head, and I think they will think that we were very colorful people.
Where do you think you have a distinct stroke, right? I mean, like I can tell when I see your painting, I'm like, that's Yolanda, that's Yolanda. Like whenever I'm at a show or something, it's so yours. Where do you think that came from, or do you think you can pinpoint where that came from?
I think it just comes from my soul. It's just that energy, that I really respect and I honor and I'm very grateful for because it really brings such joy to my life, that process. It really fills me up in such a wonderful way. And if I could share it with anybody so they could tap into that, that's really important. But it comes from it's just a pure relationship. It really is. And I think that's where it comes from,
I totally subscribe to that feeling of when I'm gonna do a little tiny piece of drawing or whatever, to let it flow through you, your soul and all that. Do you have a process that you do to get yourself to a place where you're ready to dive into a canvas?
I think it's just a lifestyle for me. Rafael, I'm always thinking art. I'm always thinking art. I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking of that. I'm looking at YouTube. What about this? And what about that? And what about this? And can we do that? And should we do this? And then I'm always painting in my brain. I'm working on commissions, but I'm working on them in my brain. So when I get to the canvas, it's almost already done.
Yeah.
It's because I've worked it out in my head. So I think that it's just, at this point, it's just an overflow. It's just like this vibration that just it just doesn't go anywhere. It's just there. So I constantly just,
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is. Thank you.
You also, listening to you, you've been with almost, I would say you've worked with almost every nonprofit that I know of. Self-help graphics, Plaza de la Raza, Inner City Arts. How was your experience working with all of these different communities? Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Great. Ultimate.
Ultimate. Oh, and you did the metro thing for AARP,
Yes.
right?
East LA Women's Center. I worked at the Crenshaw Christian Center for a while. Yeah, I mean it's the community. It's the community. It's representing. It's giving, and it's just kind of what I do. Art and giving is really who I am, and so the relationships have been wonderful. They've been long-standing. I mean, Plaza de la Raza, I mean, they've gone through, I think I've known 4 or 5 executive directors. Self-help graphics, probably the same. And but I'm very respectful of the nonprofit organizations and what they do for the community. So anything I can do for them or give back to them or donate, work, I do it, yeah.
You have this longevity and this breadth of work and community organizations and just your own personal work and your exhibits and everything. I mean, you said, I think since 1986, all these different things you've been doing. What can you say to somebody that's young, that's just starting, that can't even, I don't think they can understand what that means yet, You're young and there's a young kid somewhere that's just man, I can't wait to get busy. Or they're I don't have enough work. I mean, what do you say to these young kids that are barely starting but can't imagine to have this much work behind them?
I think what I would say is trust the universe, because I think we sign a contract even before we get here, It's do you want to be this person? Do you want to be that person? And I picked this person. I picked the artist. And And I think that if we just trust in the universe and just go along with that, and because there's an entity definitely in power bigger than us, guiding us, and then our ancestors, are there for us. So I think if you just really listen to what your gut's telling you, and it could just be simple, if you don't have the funds to get, watercolors, or you could get a pencil and go the 99-cent store have some great pencils and sharpeners.
Yeah.
I'm like a sharpener fanatic. I'm like, zzz, I love sharpening my pencils. And so, just
You remember sharpening them with a knife when we were
yes,
kids? Yep.
yeah. It's just because I do this. I don't preoccupy myself with, all of this other noise. I just want to create, So don't preoccupy yourself with all that other noise and just create. Even if it's, there's a cup right here. Get a pencil and a paper, and even if the paper has lines, just draw, and start to build that relationship. And it's
The relationship with you and the process, or with you and the act.
Yeah, with you, the process, the act, the energy. Because, I mean, even just, I'm sure, even just for some kids thinking about music, or thinking about art, or thinking about movement, they get this, this kind of a energy, right? And that, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. So follow the energy, follow the energy, and just keep yourself kind of in a pure spot. Because then, like, I met Robert Miller. I'm doing bigger ceramics with Robert Miller. The big head. He helped me put in the kiln. He's helping me. And so the universe, if you're kind of pure and true to yourself, the universe will bring past people through your life that are going to take you to the road. If you meet people and you feel this heaviness here, or you feel uncomfortable, or you're confused, those people need to be put aside, and you need to continue your path, because they will derail your path. Yeah. And I do believe that at times we're tested. And if we want to keep that process going for 30 or 40 years, you have to be very careful with the choices that you make. And there have been choices that I have not wanted to make, but I've made them because my art is more important to me than any other thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do the work and protect your road.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things that I tell young people is just keep creating. Like, just keep creating, and keep making, and keep creating. And yeah, but I love that. Protect the energy and protect your road. Yeah. Beautiful. You have this just amazing story of experiences, because I've had a lot of people come in here and tell me their story, or I'm sure that they're within 1 hour they can't tell me their entire story. Neither can you, but I think that you've had these experiences of these experiences of travel, but also being down to earth in the community, working hard, putting in the work. And I just love that.
Thank you.
I think that's really important to just stay grounded and stay human. And anyways, I just appreciate that about you, and I appreciate that about seeing your work and feeling it. Is there something that we haven't talked about that you would like to share with us?
Well, I have a exhibition opening up.
Oh, yeah.
I have a one-woman exhibition opening up at MOLA.
Oh, okay. What?
February 19th to July 30th. Thank you.
Okay.
And it has some of the prints from Japan.
Okay.
And it has some of my Metamorphosis series, which was created when I got back from Japan.
Wow.
And I asked myself, what happens to Chicana when you take away the color? And it was a sense of mourning of the passing of Sala. Some of my new sculptures are going to be there. Some installation. We're hoping we get that metal person to do the installation. And then I have
How many pieces?
80.
Wow. Oh, that's exciting.
I would say
Yeah.
80. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's very, yeah, and I'm getting this show together, and it's
Wow, I'm glad you had time to come see us because it's crunch time.
well, yeah. I wanted to because you asked me, and I'd been wanting to do this for a while, and I thought, and the good thing is, it's I'm home building these little heads, right?
And it's a museum, so they handle all of the
Yeah.
intricate work.
Yeah, I'm still creating work. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to the studio right now and still finish up stuff, glaze it, and then off it goes. But so it's exciting. Yeah,
Wow.
it's very exciting. So, and I have an exhibition that I'm with Bermuda's Projects, and I'm going to be doing. It's May, and I've been very attracted to amate paper.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was in Oaxaca, I went to the was it Toledo Museum? No. Yes, the Toledo Museum, and they have paper, and it's amate paper, and I love the yellow ochre. I'm all about yellow ochre. Like, yellow ochre is my color, and I found that paper really large, so I'm going to do a series of that, and I think it's 4 by 8 or 10 feet. Something like that. So, yeah, I'm very excited, and I really want to do an artist in residency at the Archie Bray Center in Montana for ceramics.
Wow.
So that's next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
And that's something that you have to apply for, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting.
That's a dream. It's a dream. And or to get one of those walk-in kilns. Those huge kilns.
What? Walk-in kiln?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's you could, that's how they get those large,
Yeah.
And they have the rolly, so you bring out the rolly and you sculpt on it and you just roll it in. Yeah.
Wow. Exciting. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to your show, and hope to be at the opening night. MOLA in Long Beach, right?
Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach, yes.
Okay, exciting. Is there a website where people can find you?
YolandaGonzalez.com.
All right. And your Instagram is?
It's Yolanda Gonzalez Art.
Okay.
It's private, unfortunately, but you could feel free to contact me, and then I'll friend you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you for doing this.
Oh.
Thank you for having these podcasts. They're wonderful to watch. I watch them, and I enjoy them. And I guess it's just, let's continue to put creativity into the universe and good energy. And let's just, after leaving this, sliding out slowly out of this pandemic, let's just love each other. Let's just be good to each other. Let's start a new movement of, love and art.
Yeah, I love that. Love life, love art. That's how I've been signing my stuff lately.
Right, yes.
There's a question that we ask everybody at the end of each podcast. I don't explain the question anymore. It's just get right to it. And you can try to answer in one sentence. So, Yolanda Gonzalez, how do you do it?
Yolanda Gonzalez. I do it very carefully, very spiritually, and with a lot of heart.
Beautiful. Very carefully, very spiritually, and with a lot of heart. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time so much. And we'll see you guys next week.